Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to PPTV with your boy, the Black Mamba. This morning is August 28th, episode number 2. And in today's episode, I'll be recapping my draft that I had earlier tonight or earlier last evening slot. So I sort of got who I was looking for, and there was a couple of players that I really kind of wanted that I didn't get. So let's jump into this draft here and see exactly how I did and what you guys think about who I maybe could have drafted at my position, and maybe some steals that I may have gotten at the same time. So in the first round, I was actually looking to get Bijan Robinson, which I kind of expected he would be gone. I didn't expect him to get drafted quite that early, but I did think it would be a little bit of a stretch for me to be able to get him at number 10. So my pick, I actually had Saquon as my number 2, but I kind of changed my mind kind of midstream and decided I wanted to go with Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb was my first round pick at number 10, and I had a quick turnaround for my second pick, and I had A.J. Brown. I had him my second pick in the second, or my third pick in the second round. So I was able to get A.J. Brown, and things were going pretty good at this point in the first 2 rounds. It was going kind of how I thought it would go, just kind of scrolling through here. This is my first time actually looking at how some of the other guys drafted in this draft as well. I was surprised in the first round that there were 2 quarterbacks off the board. I didn't expect quarterbacks to start coming off the board until the second round. But it looks like these 2 guys either were not online or they had already set up an auto draft for their picks. So in the third round, which I had the 10th pick in the third round, and it went as expected. I got T. Higgins, who I really like as a high-end number 2. I think he can put number 1 numbers up. I think he'll be targeted. I think that offense will be able to spread the ball around enough for him to be able to get number 1 targets and production. So I was happy with my third pick, my pick in the third round at T. Higgins. And as I had kind of stated last night, round 4 was where things were gonna start getting a little squirrely, and they did. In round 4, I was looking at a quarterback, and then I was kind of on the fence as to who I would go with, and I actually was planning on picking Najee Harris if he was to come back to me, but he didn't. So I kind of moved everything up. I think I had J.K. Dobbins as my pick in the 5th round, but I decided to go ahead and move him up around early, and now I would have my number 1 running back and my number 2 running back, as well as my number 1 and number 2 wide receiver. As I was switching things up, my goal was to make sure that my lineup would stay even keel, and it would be pretty solid throughout my lineup. So I decided to go with the number 2 and not stretch. I could have went with Amon-Ra St. Brown. That actually would have been a good pick. But I had another receiver in mind that I was thinking would make a good flex. So I wanted to solidify my second running back. So that was my reasoning for going ahead and choosing J.K. Dobbins. So at this point in the 5th round, I'm thinking that it's probably time to go ahead and like round out all my important positions, and that which would have been tight end and quarterback. As I stated in my last video, I really wanted Darren Waller, and I wanted him pretty much at whatever cost or whatever I felt like it would take for me to get him. And I knew if I waited until the 6th round, it was going to be a 50-50 chance that I probably would not get him. So I decided to go ahead and move him up a round earlier. And my fifth round pick was Darren Waller, which I feel really good about that pick. I felt like he was the centerpiece to what I needed. As you see here, Trevor Lawrence was also one of the quarterbacks that I was targeting, and he was the last. So it basically boiled down to which one was more important. Was it Trevor Lawrence or was it Darren Waller? So Darren Waller was the only guy that I was looking at in the tight end position, even though Trevor Lawrence was number 4 out of the 4 quarterbacks that I was looking at. I still had other tier 2 quarterbacks that I could pick up, and I wouldn't feel like I was losing at that position. So that was my thought process in going with Darren Waller in round 5. So going to round 6, which is the reason I didn't go with St. Brown in the 4th round. Keenan Allen was my round 6 pick. I felt really good. I feel really good about Keenan Allen. The knock on him is he doesn't stay healthy, but if you look at his numbers, he's really productive, and he's a solid producer. And every year he's always the top echelon of the receivers. And I think this year is going to be a year where he and Herbert, where they really gel that offense. This is Herbert's 3rd year. Keenan Allen, he's been like at the top of his craft pretty much since he's been in the league. So I feel really good about him, especially as a flex receiver. So he's my number 3 receiver. So I feel like I'll get really solid production out of that position. So that was my round 6 pick. Round 7, as you can see, I still was kind of hesitant, and I skipped out on picking a quarterback. Even though in this round I would have picked Deshaun Watson if he was coming back around to me. As you can see, he went 5 picks before it was my pick. And I kind of got sniped 2 times in this round because if I didn't get Deshaun Watson, I had Rachaad White as my running back that I was going to get. So as you can see, they both went back to back. And so I had to go with Javonte Williams. Feel like I'm getting pretty good value out of Javonte. He's on my list. He was ranked number 37 as far as running backs are concerned, which would make him a running back number 3. A good flex position. So he doesn't have to be super produced. He doesn't have to produce really big numbers, but as long as he's steady and can put some numbers on the board, I feel real good about that pick. So round 8 was was where I was getting a little antsy about my quarterback. As I was making these picks, I was trying to figure out what my new strategy would be for quarterbacks. So as I was thinking through it, I figured that I'd just use a quarterback by committee, and I'll just go from week to week, and I'll play the matchup. So whoever has the best matchup out of the three quarterbacks that I picked up, that's who I'll play. So I like that strategy, even though I would prefer to have a solid number one, someone that I know that I would start every week, regardless of who they're playing. I do like the fact that I was able to pick up Dak Prescott. I'm not a big Dak Prescott fan. No particular reason, but he's either super cold or super hot. So, and he was ranked number 10 on my list. So I felt like that was a solid pick in round 8 to be able to get him as my number one quarterback. And in round 9, now I'm just kind of rounding out my lineup and, picking up players that will make my lineup pretty solid, providing that they provide the value that I'm thinking. I had to go with Pat Freiermuth. And for those of you, I'm a super Steelers fan. I love the Stees, so felt like it was a good time for me to get some Steeler Nation on the team. So I went with Pat. I think he's going to be a solid producer this year. Pickett, him and Pickett has good chemistry. He's a really, really good receiver with really good hands, and he kind of reminds you of a wide receiver. He doesn't fit the mold of a tight end. He can catch passes. So I'm happy with my 9th round pick with Pat. Going into round 10, here's where I was just trying to fill my lineup and figured I'd go with another quarterback. So I went with upside, and that was Anthony Richardson. Coming out of camp, there's been good talk about him and what he offers. So we'll see. It could be a home run, or it could be a super dud. So either way, I'm cool with it because, like I say, the 3 quarterbacks that I have, they're going to be in rotation. I'll play matchups and see how each one does. If one kind of separates from the other, then I can have me a starting number 1 quarterback. Other than that, I'm not sold, or I'm not married to starting any other quarterbacks that I have on a week-to-week basis. My number 11 pick was Jeff Wilson with the Miami Dolphins. I like Jeff. Jeff's he's a pretty good running back. He has a tendency to get hurt, but when he's on the field, he's a home run hitter. He can take it to the house at any time. So he is like my number 4 running back. So if the Miami Dolphins running game takes off, that could be a super steal. But I felt like that was a good pickup in round 11. In round 12, had to circle back and go with Steeler Nation again. I went with Kenny Pickett. Kenny, I think Kenny will have a good year this year. The Steelers, they've been sneaky good in the preseason. I don't know really how much that means for the regular season, but Kenny has a lot of grit, and he's not scared to throw the ball around the field. So that was my number 12 pick with Kenny Pickett. My number 13 pick was Treylon Burks, who at the moment he's hurt, but if he gets back to the field, he's the number one, I think, in Tennessee, and this is his second year, so I felt like I didn't have anything to lose by picking him up in round 13. Pretty close to the end here as far as my needs, so I'm just trying to fill slots right now. In round 14, I went with the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Defenses, I treat them as a matchup play from week to week as well. Normally, in previous years, I would just pick up one defense and just play the matchup depending on who they're playing each week. But I figured I'd go with two defenses this year, and I'll still be playing matchups unless one defense just shows where they're going to be dominant and be able to hold teams to 0, as well as maybe put points on special teams. So Kansas City was the first defense that I picked up, and with my second defense in round 15, I went with the Colts. So I don't know a whole lot about the Colts defense this year. They normally have a pretty good defense. I think they're preseason, which really doesn't mean a whole lot. I think for preseason, they're on my list. They're ranked as like the number 5 defense. So hopefully they can show their worth this year. But we'll see. And Mr. Irrelevant was Brandon Aubrey, the kicker with Dallas. So this kid, he kicked a 59-yard field goal, I think, in the last preseason game. So figured I'd take a flyer on him. I think he's ranked. Well, in this ranking, he's ranked number 3. I'm not sure what he's ranked on my list, but that's my kicker, and I normally treat kickers as a matchup deal as well, unless it's Justin Tucker, who always goes before the 10th round. So my kickers are always on a matchup rotation as well. So that rounds my draft out, and with the exception of not being able to get my quarterback, one of those 4 quarterbacks I was telling you about being Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, or Trevor Lawrence, I was pretty satisfied with the players I was able to get. I think I put together a pretty solid team. Of course, it always looks good on paper before the season starts, and then you get into the season and you're like, you second guess yourself, wondering what were you thinking when you picked this player at this position. But on paper, I think it looks pretty good for me. I'm excited. I know that even if it is a solid team, you always have to work the waiver wire. So I'm pretty good about working that waiver wire and picking a few gems up off of the waiver wire. And as far as my draft grade here, as you can see, I graded out a B, which I'll take that. Like I say, if I would have got my quarterback, I'd be much happier. But I'll make do with what I have. So with that being said, that's one draft in the books. I still have 2 more drafts to go. I have another draft on Wednesday, August the 30th. I think that's the 30th. August the 30th. at 9 p.m. It'll be an auction draft. Not really good at those auction drafts. This will be the third auction draft that I've done, and I made the playoffs for the first time last year doing one of those drafts. So hopefully this year I'll build off of that momentum. And after that, I have one more draft. I think that will be the following on Labor Day, as a matter of fact. But let me know your thoughts on what you think, how you think I did as far as the draft is concerned, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. With that being said, Black Mamba out.